Hi folks, greetings everyone. It's a sweet, quiet spot, not far from where we live, on these white rocks. And I'd love to make a short announcement, reminder about our first live program of this year, which is planned for Vienna during the Easter weekend at the end of March, early April. So, Vienna, why Vienna? Why out of all the places, that particular city? Well, some of you may recall we had this European winter tour last winter when we have started it in our old good beloved Freiburg, then Berlin, Zurich, and culminating that tour in Vienna exactly a year ago, in March 23. It turned out to be the most eventful, the most impactful, the most well-attended event of all the European cities that we have mapped and visited. And of course that prompted our decision to go back to Vienna last year in September, which was again rather a beautiful get-together of many familiar faces, many familiar seekers of truth, followers, students, and friends of this path, friends of this work. So we have decided to keep that place on our regular, let's say, a visiting basis and keep it warm, keep going back to it, hence the decision. What else could be said about Vienna? Well, for me personally, Vienna holds this dear spot, though as a young artist I've never been there, surprisingly, despite the fact that some of the most favorite artists of mine lived and deeply associated with the city, that is Gustav Klimt and his famous disciple, student Egon Schiele, who has left behind extraordinary body of work, although he barely lived into his late 20s. As you know, he has died, him and his wife, the whole family, from the famine, that Spanish flu that hit Europe at the beginning of the 20th century. Also because Vienna is a place of the clandestine tradition of Viennese music. I mean, you can just begin to name great composers and performers who came, or rather who were great gifts of that particular tradition of Viennese music. So I myself still looking forward to catch up with a lot of places that I still yet to visit. But the main incentive, of course, is to get together for that shared space where we can dive deep into the meditative practices, where we can then perhaps unpack another impromptu discourse based on what is happening in terms of the worldly affairs and how that sits in relation to each and every one of us. What's the purpose of being alive? What's the purpose of being human being per se and at this point in time? And in addition, of course, always to have that time for questions and answers, which is my favorite of all times of being together. So if any of you have been considering, let alone sitting on the fence, I nudge you gently to make up your minds, because we've got this space which is large, very comfortable, in the center of the city, like literally right next to the main big park, and it's a non-residential weekend immersion. So welcome everyone. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing the familiar faces, getting together again in that shared space. And yes, and just dive into it all so as to add perhaps that healing, gentle touch to what the world needs right now, more perhaps than ever before. World as peace, serenity, fulfillment, quietude, that bubbling sense of fulfillment that we know as Ananda, and also at the very same time to revel in the knowledge of what this work really can potentially bring for each and every one of us and for the world at large. Okay, folks? So, greetings from Mallorca, and looking forward to seeing you all. Bye for now.